Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. We are happy that you're here and happy that you joined us for this new grantee orientation session today. So we're going to be talking today about resources that NCALL can provide to you as you go about implementing your OVW Abuse in Later Life grant. Just a disclaimer first, though, that our work at the National Clearinghouse on Abuse in Later Life, and as the technical assistance provider for you, the grantees of the Abuse in Later Life program, is funded by the U.S. Department of Justice, the Office on Violence Against Women. And so the opinions, findings, conclusions, and recommendations that the NCALL team will be talking about today are those of ours and do not necessarily reflect the views of the DOJ or OVW. All right, just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. So again, please go ahead and rename yourself to include both your name and your community, just so that we are all, as we all continue to get to know one another. I think you all are doing this, but just keep yourself muted to avoid background noise. But of course, if you have questions, you can raise your hand and you can come off mute. We welcome your questions, or you can also add them in the chat. And if you do have technology issues that you're running into, please let us know if you're having trouble hearing us or viewing the slides or anything like that. Anna Cash's phone number is listed here, 301-767-6602, and she'd be happy to help you. All right, so let's start like we normally do. Let's go ahead and hear from you all and just hear who's all in the room today. We'll start with Alexandra House.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Sue Redmond, and I am the project coordinator for Anoka County's Abuse in Later Life grant program. And I'm also with Alexandra House, and I am joined on this call with Laura Zimpelman-Eng from Anoka County Adult Protective Services, Emily Douglas from the Anoka County Attorney's Office, and Brent Erickson from the Anoka County Sheriff's Office.
Super. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to Center for Elder Law and Justice next.
I don't know if I see Kathy on the call, but I'm Larissa Blackman from Pinnacle Community Services. I'm a partner with them. I'm here in Niagara Falls. So hi, everybody.
Thanks, Larissa. County of San Diego.
Carlos Morales, County of San Diego Adult Protective Services, possibly, maybe someday, maybe coordinator for CCR for our project. And today we have Maria Outcall Smith from our community partner Center for Community Solutions. We have Rami Jamal, also from Adult Protective Services, Scott Perello from our DA here in San Diego, and Stacy Ralph, Detective Stacy Ralph from the Sheriff's Department. So a lot of our membership is here.
Super, thanks, Carlos. And then Nevada, Office of the Attorney General.
I'll jump in.
Needing help?
Oh, there you go.
Oh, hi, Homa. Hi.
Go for it, Megan.
Nelson with the Nevada Office of the Attorney General's Office. And then obviously on the line, we also have Homa Woodrum with us. And I believe I saw Judy Henderson with the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence with us as well.
And I think Tammy Seaver from the state of Nevada Aging and Disability Division is on. And I just wanted to apologize to the group. I have to jump in like 10 minutes, but you're well represented for Nevada.
All right. Thanks so much. And then I noticed that we have a couple of project coordinators from previous grantee cohorts joining us today too. So we welcome you. Would you mind just coming off mute and sharing your name and the community you're from?
Hi, my name is Jody Hector. I'm from Arizona, and we're with the 2020 Abuse in Later Life grant.
Thanks, Jude. Thanks, Jody. And then Bill.
Hi, I'm Bill Rose. I'm the project coordinator with the Abuse in Later Life project 2019. And we are in Syracuse, New York at Vera House.
Super. Thanks, Bill.
Hi, I'm Mary Margaret from Cleveland Rate Crisis Center. We're also from the 2020 grant cycle.
Thanks, Mary Margaret. All right, so we will quickly go through introductions with the NCALL team. And I will start with myself. My name is Kristen Berkey, and I'm the NCALL director. Victoria.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Victoria Ferguson-Young. I'm the Victim Services Coordinator for NCALL.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm Ann Lotch, and I am the Justice System Coordinator for NCALL.
Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Meyer, Assistant Director with NCALL.
And I'm Marty Washington, the Abuse and Later Life Program Coordinator.
Thanks, Marty. And then Anna Cash is not on this, but Anna, could you introduce yourself? I know Anna was having some internet issues, so I think that's probably why she didn't come off mute. But Anna Cash is also our training and technical assistance specialist with NCALL. All right, so today we want to talk to you a little bit about the technical assistance that NCALL can provide to you. And we'll talk a little bit about the technical assistance and the training related to grant implementation overall, specifically related to as you implement your coordinated community response, as you train your justice system partners and victim services training and technical assistance as well. And then we'll also talk a little bit about not only resources that NCALL has available to you on these topics and elder abuse, but also some other resources that might be helpful for you as you get started with your grant. Before we do that, I just wanted to make a note that our last new grantee orientation session is next week. So the next week's session is on project coordinator tips for success. So this session will be, the audience for this session is the point of contact or project coordinators. So for MOU partners that are joining today, this will be the last session that you attend. All right, so NCALL has provided training, technical assistance, and resources to the OVW Abuse and Later Life grantee since 2002. And we are available for consultation and problem solving to you. We're available to answer questions on various aspects of implementing your grant. And we work closely as a team to ensure that the training and technical assistance that you receive feels seamless to you. So we work closely as a team, but each person on our team has different aspects that they focus on. And so we're going to spend our time today talking about that. So Marty's going to start by sharing a little bit about the training and technical assistance she can provide related to both grant implementation as well as community coordinated response. And then we'll hear from Ann Lotch on justice system training and TA, and Victoria on victim services, and then Sarah Meyer related to resources, other resources available to you. So I'm going to then pass it off to Marty to kick us off.
Thanks, Kristen. So the Abuse and Later Life project is a cooperative agreement. And what that means is that OVW will be working with you very closely on the development and the delivery of all the different aspects of your project. NCALL is here to help you along the way. OVW will be working with you on the grant administration piece, but for the implementation piece, please reach out to NCALL. We're here if you need to brainstorm ideas, or you need connection to resources, or connection maybe with a peer that is going through the same types of challenges. So that's the role we play in the grant implementation. Next slide, please. So a couple of things that I will work with you on is I'm the general point of contact. So if I don't know the answer, as Kristen said, we have team members that specialize in different areas, and I will make sure to connect you with the right person if I don't know the answer. I also will be administering the listserv, and that listserv is generally reserved for the project coordinators. We have had others who are an integral part of the project on it also. But the listserv, I can't speak highly enough, because the listserv is your chance to run ideas by your peers, not only in the cohort of your grant, but for grants past and future. We don't remove you from the listserv unless you ask us to. So we have people who are no longer project coordinators on the listserv. So it's a really great resource. Sometimes you don't want to reinvent the wheel, and maybe one of your peers has already dealt with a particular resource or challenge, etc. So I can't speak highly enough about the listserv. Next slide, please. The project coordinator handbook is something we're going to really take a peek inside next week when we're working with the project coordinators. But for today, I just want to say that this handbook has a chapter on all the different deliverables for this grant. And it's really a how-to document. It goes through all the different parts of the grant, and you as a project coordinator may end up sharing chapters of this handbook with your MOU partners and your CCR members, etc. Because there's lots in there that you can be working on in your CCR. And then, of course, I mentioned the listserv before. You all know, because, well, for people that are continuing applications, this is old hat for you, but for the newer grantees, you just completed your first semi-annual report. It was due in January and it's due in July, and it covers a 6-month period. And this is the key mechanism to collect the data and understand the effectiveness of the Abuse in Later Life project. And the Violence Against Women Measuring Effectiveness Initiative is working very hard to make sure that not only does this report collect all the data, but they're available to you for individualized technical assistance also. If you have not gone to one of their webinars where they walk through this report with you, I think everyone should do it at least once, and you may have to repeat it at later times if it's been a while. But it's really important to understand how you collect the data for this grant. Their website also has many resources, and it's vowamei.org. But we'll be giving you that information. I think Anna included it on the form or the resource list that she sent out earlier today. But next slide, it will show. This is their website, their phone number, and their email. Definitely touch base with them and make sure you understand that report. And watch some of the webinars they have on grant reporting. Next slide. Your coordinated community response is one of the main components of your grant. And well, next slide. I'm here to offer technical assistance as you are developing it, as you are engaging members, as you are trying to form what your goal is or your priorities, moving into assessment of current response, all along the way, retaining members, sustainability of your group, etc. So any questions you have about coordinated community response, please reach out to me. If I don't know the answer, I will find the answer for you. The other thing that we do in regard to the coordinated community response is we offer a kickoff every year. And this happens at the end of year 1. For the 2 grantees on the call that are continuing, this doesn't apply to you. But for the other 2, I'll be contacting you sometime this summer. We'll have a meeting because your kickoff event will be customized to your community. So I want to have those conversations to really understand what's going on in your community, who are your CCR members currently, and where you are in the process. And the kickoff is just that, to kick off, to get people excited about what you're doing in your project. So you will be hearing from me this summer. Next slide. These workbooks are not new to you. If you've been attending these sessions for the last few weeks, we've brought them up. These workbooks, there's one for 5 different disciplines, and they're really useful. They're optional, but they're really useful in starting the conversation of assessing to yourself or within your agency what your response looks like. You can learn a lot about what your current response is by looking through and utilizing these workbooks. Then you can bring what you have discovered to the CCR, and as a group work together to develop a coordinated response that really supports victims and holds offenders accountable, which is really what we're working towards. And next slide. And the last workbook I want to tell you about is a workbook that's specifically for the coordinated community response assessment. So this is something you would do as a group. Once again, this is optional. It's just one tool for you to use to really look at the effectiveness of your work when you've been at it for a while. You want to look at that. And there's also some CCR resources. All of this is within the grantee portal, and the project coordinators will get access to the portal and the project coordinators handbook when the new grantee orientation ends, which is next week. Can't believe it's coming up so soon. Next slide. We put this in here just to give you an idea of some things that are available to you outside of NCALL. The Battered Women's Justice Project is definitely worth clicking around on their website. They have some coordination models. It's always good to get feedback and to get input from different perspectives. And so I do encourage you to click around their website and check out some of their work. And I think we're over to Anne at this time.
All right. Thank you, Marty. I would, before I get going, just echo what Marty said and really encourage you guys to take a look at the systems change workbooks. I think that it's a really thoughtful, methodical way to sort of analyze how you, regardless of what the services are that you provide or where you work, sort of a good way to assess how you are doing serving older survivors. So I would just echo that. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the support and resources around your justice system deliverables. We know that this grant is heavily focused on the justice system and your justice system partners, which is great. So if we could have the next slide, please. Just to sort of give a high level overview of what you'll be doing under this grant. Again, I know you've heard a lot of this already. Lots of training for law enforcement that we're going to tell you more about as in the coming months. You'll be able to start doing that. And then also training for prosecutors and for judges. Right now, we don't anticipate having any in-person events this year. Typically, you might be starting to send your prosecutors to, or thinking about sending prosecutors to an in-person event in the fall. We don't expect that we will have one this year, but there will be virtual opportunities coming up for those groups, and you will be learning more about those as we get further into the year. And then resource development, this would be the thing that you'd be working on first related to your justice system deliverables, and we'll spend much more time talking about your legal remedies and victim resource guide and what that looks like and the process for finishing that. But that is just sort of a summary of the activities that you'll be doing related to constituencies in the justice system. Next slide. So my role is working with you guys to provide you with support and assistance and resources, working with any of those justice system professionals or fulfilling any of those deliverables under the grant. So if you say you are having trouble connecting with somebody and you want to figure out ways to better engage your prosecutors on your CCR or issues like that, I am here for you. Any questions like that come up. And then more specifically, as you start working on drafts and getting your legal remedies and victim resources guide ready to go, I will be the first person to review that before you send it to Janice. And you'll be getting examples of what those look like and more information about that. But as you start to work together with your MOU partners on developing that, I am here for you. If you have stumbling blocks or questions about what that's going to look like, please reach out to me. I'm happy to assist and give you some guidance on that. And then everybody's committed to doing law enforcement training, at least for sure the new grantees. And we will be talking to you about what that looks like, both the basic sort of patrol level, introductory level training, and then the advanced training that you're all required to do. So that's what I'll be working with you guys on. There are a few other resources that I want to draw your attention to and that you should be aware of. First of all, every year or so, we offer a series in partnership with the American Bar Association that is a webinar series for civil attorneys and legal advocates. And it's really intended for lawyers on the civil side to take a look at the way that they are providing services for survivors of abuse, but also to get them aware of signs of abuse and ways that they may be able to detect that abuse is happening with a client who is coming to them for something completely separate. So it's a great series. We will be doing that later this summer. So stay tuned, watch the listserv. We will be sending out information and posting it on the website when we have the dates finalized for that. But we always have really good attendance, and it's a lot of good practical information, certainly appropriate for people in the criminal justice world too. But this one is definitely geared towards civil attorneys. Next slide. Then I would also invite you to take a look at the Elder Justice Roadmap. That is a great resource. It is on the DOJ website. The definition that we use of elder abuse was developed as part of this project, or definition of abuse in later life rather, was developed as part of this project. And it just is a good sort of look at how we as a society respond to older survivors, and what does elder justice look like, and what role do we have to play in achieving justice for older survivors. So, and all these resources are going to be on the information that Anna emailed out prior to today's session. So I would encourage you to take a look at that as well. And then while you're over there on the DOJ site, the Elder Justice Initiative website is, you can lose an afternoon poking around at all the resources in there. It is arranged by profession. So you can see on the left, it's maybe a little bit small. There's a ton of information and resources and videos and webinar opportunities and articles for prosecutors, for law enforcement, for people who work in victim services. Lots of information for rural and tribal communities. It's just a really great place to, that would be the first place I would go if I were looking for some resource related to the justice system and older survivors. They're constantly updating also. I found they have a ton of new resources and guides, and just when you have some time, if you're not familiar with it, I think it is definitely worth checking out. Next slide. Then one of the organizations that we have worked with pretty closely is the National Center on Elder Abuse, which in conjunction with with EJI is the EAGLE, that is the Elder Abuse Guide for Law Enforcement. It is undergoing a little bit of a refresh right now. It's a really terrific online tool geared towards law enforcement for kind of quick, questions they might have if they are on a scene and they suspect that they are encountering a case of elder abuse. It's got checklists, evidence collection checklists, sort of signs of abuse, what to look for on a scene. It's really, really terrific. It's very user-friendly. And even if you are not law enforcement, I would encourage you to be familiar with it. You're going to hear more about that in the coming weeks, because we are doing some work with them on releasing a product that we have been working on. So you're going to hear more about the Eagle. If you aren't familiar with it, just know that that is out there and is a really terrific tool for law enforcement. And then also on the DOJ website, I think I mentioned these before, there's a really wonderful set of videos by and for prosecutors on all kinds of topics related to prosecuting elder abuse cases. So partnering with law enforcement, working with APS. What do you do if you think your client doesn't have capacity to participate in a prosecution? Many videos, and the folks who are presenting in the videos are experts in the field and people that we are very honored to work with on an ongoing basis. They're all short. They're probably between 5 and 10 minutes each, and just a really, really good training resource for prosecutors and non-prosecutors alike. So have that one bookmarked. It's really excellent. And that's about it. We are always looking to develop and to expand the range of resources that we have on our website. And so as we do that, we will obviously let you guys know, but please keep an eye on our website. And if you see something or learn about something and have questions about it or want to bring it to our attention, I would please encourage you to do that, because we are always looking. More information is always better than less information. So I look forward to working with you. And if you have any questions about anything related to your justice system, deliverables, resources that you need that you can't find, please be in contact with me. Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much. And once again, everyone, good afternoon. I'm Victoria Ferguson Young, your Victim Services Coordinator. And I'll be sharing a little bit more about my role in a moment. But for now, I just really wanted to remind each of you about the main focus in our work, which is improving the services and assistance that we provide to the older adults we serve. And so I'll spend a few moments talking with you about finding support and resources for victim services. Go on to the next slide. So let's quickly review your deliverables that you're required to provide surrounding victim services. So first will be the trainings, that would be your direct services training and the community conversation for your area or community. It's currently virtual only, and you will not need to necessarily plan for this just yet. If you're a continuation grant, you likely already have that completed, but for the new grantees, it's not something that you have to do just yet, but in about a year or so. So I'll be in touch with you to begin planning at a later date. But however, the plan to implement your victim services, that really starts right away. So that will be with you completing your needs assessment and your outreach and services strategic plan, also known as OSSP. So just to be on the lookout and to start thinking about that. And I'm sure you've heard about it and, probably started that process, but that will be what's coming up next to work on. So next slide. Okay, so once again, I'm Victoria, and I'm responsible for all the following things that are there listed. So your resources regarding victim services, outreach to older victims, anything that pertains to the service that you provide for older adults, working with service professionals throughout your community. I'm here to provide any support and information and guidance on that. Also, if we just mentioned the direct services training, when it's time for you to have that, to complete that, I will be your point of contact for that. I'll be reviewing your outreach and strategic services plan, your OSSP. And then also I'm available to provide any technical assistance that you need with your direct services planning or with your implementation process. So any questions in the meantime that come up for you, you're always welcome to reach out and to contact me. So next slide. So the next few slides will highlight several key resource guides and materials that will give you some more insight, understanding, and the tools that you need to implement effective victim services programming, as well as methods to engage in marginalized communities too. So that is something that we want you to focus on. We know it can be much easier to just go with what you know and who you know, but we really do want you to think about, and we want to provide you with some tools and insight as to how to reach those communities who are a bit more difficult to touch, who have more challenges getting in contact with you. So LGBTQ communities, communities of color, immigrant communities, those with disabilities. We have some resource information that we want to, for you to review and to read through as you consider your outreach in those communities. So here on this slide, you see the Abuse in Later Life Education Series for Advocates. And that consists of 20 instructional video clips featuring national experts discussing key topics that advocates encounter when they're serving older adults. So the training modules are formatted as videos, each less than 30 minutes in length. So it's created so that it's easy for you to digest and really grasp. A worksheet also accompanies each module with links to additional resources and questions for you to consider as you incorporate it into your work. So that's that resource. So we go to the next slide. The next one here, Working with Older Survivors of Abuse, a Framework for Advocates. This resource describes 7 guiding principles with minimum guidelines and practical strategies for advocates and programs to consider. So gives you those 7 things to really think about in your work. And this guide contains various caption videos. So it's more than just reading. There's videos you can watch, but also they contain closed captioning and subtitles for you to read if need be. And there's also visually described videos too. So that one is for you to consider as well in your work. And then next, we have the resources for working with the faith community. And this one offers the best practices and strategies for advocates and service providers to use to build partnerships that can help your faith communities to become much more resourceful. So this is critical because faith communities are normally the first place that older adults will turn to for help. So we know that faith leaders can often be frontline or responders or crisis responders in this work. And so it's really vital for you to prioritize this outreach as well in your victim services planning. Additionally, it's important because due to COVID, additional barriers have been added. And so with faith leaders still being the ones who have touched and normally have such a relationship with older adults, it's really important that they know about changes in resources in your community. So if things have shut down or if something new is being implemented through your grant or there's a new advocate that's being hired, it's so important that they know. So when they hear about abuse, when it's disclosed to them, when they have concerns, they know who they can contact or maybe what's changed, even if there's any tips to provide them on connecting with resources, especially during while the pandemic is ongoing. Okay, so next slide. Next, we have the resource for working with tribal communities, and the Reclaiming What is Sacred toolkit is what we want to highlight here. It's designed to help tribal communities create or enhance their response to elders. So it was created based on a listening session that NCALL conducted with representatives from tribal communities. So it is, those directly a part of those communities who provide insight as to the best practices and ways to connect with them. So it further identifies specific guiding philosophies, cultural considerations for you, and potential action steps that tribes and villages may want to do when addressing abuse in later life in their community. So if any of you as grantees know that you have tribal communities or indigenous communities that are a part of your area that you cover, you definitely want to take a look at that, review it, read through it, so that you have more insight as to connecting with those groups. Next. So next we have the Increasing Access Toolkit, which is focused on enhancing service and support for older Black or African American victims. So it's going to provide you with the information and strategies to enhance your capacity as service providers to reach and identify and serve African American providers. So please take a look at that. I think oftentimes it's easy to think that there's a blanket way to just reach and to connect with victims. And obviously there are, practices and principles that would apply to everyone, but it's important to be aware of differences, especially that may be different from your own identity, and just think, how can we better equip ourselves to know and connect with leaders of those particular groups or organizations that serve those particular groups. So that toolkit will be really helpful for that. And then Next, we have the resources for engaging older LGBTQ+ adults. So for this, we'd like you to please visit the National Resource Center on LGBTQ plus aging, which is also known as SAGE, and that's based out of New York City. So they are the country's first and only technical assistance resource center focused on improving the quality of services and supports offered to lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender older adults, and in addition to their families and caregivers of them. So this site will offer a lot of great and relevant information that you can use right away in your outreach efforts. Additionally, we are, as NCALL, planning to have some more for you on this topic this year. So there'll be more to come on that, but for now, we just like you to review this and to just add it to your repertoire of things to even know and to reference if need be, but to just take a few moments and check their website out for more information. And so as I conclude my segment on the aforementioned resource guides, toolkits, and education series, all of those are found on the NCALL site with the exception of the most recent one I mentioned at SAGE, the LGBTQ plus, a National Resource Center. And so, you can head to our page, go down to for professionals and scroll to domestic and sexual violence advocates and program link, in addition to, of course, a resource list that Anna sent. So if you are ever on the site and just curious how to get there, I just wanted to share that information. So once again, I'm here for you with any questions or concerns that you may have surrounding your victim services and guidance that you may need. And so that's all for me. And I will turn it over next to our Assistant Director, Sarah Meyer.
Thanks, Victoria. So I have the pleasure of wrapping up for everybody. My colleagues have touched on a lot of resources that NCALL can provide internally and touched on some things that are really helpful resources externally. I'm going to kind of review a few things that NCALL has specifically on our website, some of the other sections on our website that my colleagues haven't addressed, and then just also mention some other key resources in the field. So next slide, please. Again, my name is Sarah Meyer, and I'm the Assistant Director with NCALL. I can be of support to you by helping you connect you with some resources related to issues around abuse in later life and elder abuse, and also around accessibility, ageism, and aging. I co-facilitate the Abuse in Later Life Grantee Listserv with Marty, and I will be subscribing the grantees to the project coordinator handbook and to the portal once new grantee orientation concludes. Next slide. So I think by now you probably know that the NCALL website is, you have the www.ncall.us. I would recommend bookmarking that. I'm going to highlight a few sections on the website that I think are of particularly useful in your work. So next slide. The publications library, I believe we mentioned this earlier in a different session of new grantee orientation, but the library has a plethora of topics, of resources sorted by topics, and all the resources are free to use. On this slide, you'll see a couple of items just that I pulled out to highlight. One is the Abuse in Later Life Power and Control Wheel, which depicts common abuser tactics that are used to establish and maintain power and control over an older survivor. The other one is a new resource that we just released in October for Domestic Violence Awareness Month that describes some dynamics and barriers that older survivors of domestic abuse experience, and recommendations for tailored services and system responses to better support older survivors. If you go to that link, you'll notice there are, some of the things that Victoria mentioned, the working with tribal communities, the guiding principles document. A lot of those things are nested in there. You just need to find the topic that's most applicable and then just drill down into there. So, but if you have any questions, trying to find anything, or just would rather not dig, just feel free to email me and I can help direct you to where the resource lives on our website. Next slide. At the bottom of our homepage, we have a news update section, which I recommend just checking every now and again, because we do post there quite often. We have funding opportunities that will mention new resources, updates from the field. So it's all kinds of like more emerging things that that we'll often post on the website. Those things are also generally blasted out on our social media, but if you're not a social media person and just want to kind of stay tuned to what we're sort of addressing, that's a good section to check out on our website. Next slide. The video library has, I think, about 30 streaming videos of subject matter experts addressing different topics related to supporting older survivors of abuse. So they're really handy, sort of digestible, short video clips. They are free to use, and you can also download them and use them in your own trainings or share as you would like. Next slide. The NCALL YouTube channel has still more videos that you can access. So it's kind of like anything that wasn't on our website is also is over on the YouTube channel. So there's videos on guardianship, working with APS, emergency housing. Yeah, you name it, it's probably on there. So I would encourage you to check it out. I know the URL is kind of tricky on the slide, but the direct link will be on the resource sheet that Anna sent. So you should be able to find it that way. Next slide. So the National Center on Elder Abuse, Anne had mentioned that earlier. We do work with them quite a bit, and their website is great. It has a lot of information on best practices, research, training, and resources on elder abuse. We worked with them to develop some materials for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day in 2020, and I suspect we will be working in partnership with them again to develop some resources for WEAD and other, as Anne mentioned, for a project that we'll be releasing soon. So next slide. The National Resource Center for Reaching Victims. That's a project that we worked with, we were a partnership with, and we developed the reaching, addressing the gaps and barriers for working with older survivors of Black and African American communities. They also have a handful of resources for victim service providers, culturally specific orgs, criminal justice professionals, and policymakers to identify, reach, and serve all victims, especially those from marginalized communities. Next slide. So the ACL, the Administration for Community Living, they have really great information on working with older survivors and adults with disabilities. I would encourage you to check that out. Next slide. And the Old School Anti-Ageism Clearinghouse. Ageism, as we know, creates an environment in which elder abuse can thrive. And so we really want to look at addressing ageism in our work. Old School has a lot of really great information, blogs, videos, books. It's all carefully vetted. So there's a lot of information to check out there. Next slide. And finally, just redirecting you to our social media. There's our handles on the website. And then also, if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, the quick link there is right on the screen. Next slide. And Anna has sent out our resource sheet with all the NCALL contact information, but here is Marty's information on the screen should you have any questions. And now questions.
Yeah, thanks everybody. We just shared so much information with you, both to tell you about the different training and technical assistance and resources that you have available, as well as just to get to know you, or for you all to get to know us a little bit more and know which areas of focus each of our team plays, the role that we all play. But yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing just so that if folks have any questions before we wrap up, that you have an opportunity to ask. Well, you have the slides that have the information we provided, as well as the list of links to all of those resources. So over the coming time period here, you'll have an opportunity to dig into all of that a little bit more. But we wanted to thank you for joining us today. That covers the content that we have today, and we're really looking forward to next week, where we'll wrap up our new grantee orientation, talking about kind of tips for project coordinators in terms of successfully implementing their abuse in later life grant. All right. Have a good rest of your day, everybody. Take care.